Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Evan with Lions, Bulls, and Bears, back for another episode of Crypto Courage. I wanted to give a little market update. It is Wednesday, February 26th, 2020. Man, markets have been real wild, all of them. Like I said in my last market update, to expect more volatility. Bitcoin Ben was saying that a while back that 1,000-point moves in the Dow will become a common occurrence. And the last 2 days we saw the stock market down just about 1,000 points, both on Monday and yesterday. It's having a bit of a bounce back right now. It's up 429 points, the Dow is. And also on Monday, when stocks were down big, gold and silver had a big move up. And it's another thing I said in my last market update, that I think they will keep moving in opposite directions. Yesterday, everything was down together pretty much. Stocks and gold and silver and cryptocurrencies. But today, cryptocurrencies are really getting hit. Bitcoin is down 4.25%, down to $9,014 at the time of this video. Ethereum's down 10%, down to $227. And the rest, a lot of the other altcoins are down even more. XRP is down 9%. Bitcoin Cash is down 11%. Litecoin's down almost 12%. Down to $63.40. So, just thought I'd give a little update on what's going on in the markets, and keep your eye on all of these markets. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. 2020 is going to be a fascinating year, that much I know. But we'll be keeping you updated. Anyway, I wanted this brings me to a point I've been wanting to discuss, which is how Bitcoin will perform during an economic collapse or crisis, or a financial crisis, a dollar collapse, which aren't necessarily the same thing. So they can, Bitcoin during just a stock market crash might go down, but in a hyperinflation might go up, might go to the moon. So, and what made me want to do this video, I'm going to grab something out of the kiln, one sec. So what made me want to do this video is when gold and silver were up big the other day, but stocks were down big, reminded me that I've been meaning to make this video. And also I watched an interview with Andreas Antonopoulos by Block TV, and I'll link that down below, where Andreas was talking about, where they asked Andreas if a financial crisis would be good for Bitcoin. And he said it could go either way, but he didn't think it would. And that reminded me of an interview I saw a little while ago with Richard Hart on Ivan on Tech, and they have this same discussion. I'll also link that video down below. So check out both those videos. They're really good, and I'm going to get into what I think So is Bitcoin a macro asset? And that really brings up the question to me is gold an asset? Because if Bitcoin is gold 2.0, then I like to look at gold first. So is gold an asset? A lot of people think gold is an asset. I don't think gold is an asset. I think gold is money. So is Bitcoin an asset or is Bitcoin money? So I also think Bitcoin is money. Right now, in this system, gold is viewed as an asset. Bitcoin is viewed as an asset. But I think in the future, one, either or both of them will be acknowledged and recognized to be sound money. There's a big difference between that. So I also want to talk about Richard's ego in that interview, and the rigidity in his thinking. He comes off a bit cocky and arrogant. I like Richard, and I think he's a really smart guy. Although if he is scamming people with his Hex coin, then I'm not a big fan of Richard anymore. I'm going to do a separate video on Hex in the future. And yeah, my good friend, he and business partner, he was real excited about Hex and respects Richard a lot. And I think now, after doing more research, is a little more suspect on what's going on there. But I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for him, so I'm going to get into all that on my video on Hex. So, but we're gonna look into that. I just, for full disclosure, I claimed my Hex, Hex that I got for being a Bitcoin holder. So I went ahead and claimed, and I staked because the Hex you claim, the majority of it you have to stake. So yeah, we'll see how that all pans out in the future, and like I said, we'll get into that in more depth in the future video. But I just didn't really appreciate Richard's calling everyone who thinks Bitcoin will be like gold and do well in a economic collapse retarded. So I never try to be that rigid in my thinking where I think the opposite viewpoint of me is retarded or crazy. I always try to be open-minded. I could be wrong and have been wrong so many times, so that's probably why I have that feeling. So, I mean, I also thought it was pretty comical that in the video he says the future is unpredictable, which I completely agree with. But then in the beginning of the video, he was bragging about all the predictions he got right. So, yeah. Which is it? Is the future unpredictable or is it predictable? So, pretty much what Richard was saying was that he thought Bitcoin would move with the stock markets, which is what he calls legacy markets. Now, I think he meant the stock market, the Dow and the S&P. Because I would say gold is a legacy market. It's been around for a long time, and it's gold is a recognized as a financial asset by the financial world. What is it, a Class A or top tier? I can't remember what type of asset it's classified as, but it's recognized by the financial world, and a lot of, financial institutions and money managers, have a position in gold, or, recommend people own gold, at least a percentage of their portfolio. Even sometimes, though, it's in the wrong form, in the form of a gold derivative and not the actual physical in your own possession, which I think is a big mistake. But I don't give financial advice. Nothing in this video is financial advice. This is just me reacting to these two interviews and just talking about the subject of money, which is one of my favorite subjects, and the whole reason I started this channel. And like I said in my last video, gold and the stock market tend to move in opposite directions. I mean, in the short term, they can move together, but in the long term, if you look historically, when the stock market is at its peak, like the year 2000, for example, gold is usually at its bottom, and vice versa. So, will Bitcoin move with, and cryptos move with stocks, or will Bitcoin and crypto move with gold and the precious metals? And will Bitcoin and the altcoins all move together, or I don't think. I think there's a lot of crypto projects that are more tech projects, more tech focused, or will rely more on a economic activity and a consumer driven economy. And then there's Bitcoin, which is like gold 2.0. And I don't think necessarily that all the cryptos need to move together. Like, they all now tend to follow Bitcoin, but that could definitely change in the future. So Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies that are good cryptocurrencies could go to the moon, while all these other blockchain projects, as brilliant as they may be, there just might not be a market for them with all the financial hardship that's going on. So that's another distinction there. So Richard, in that interview, talks about people in a financial crisis, that people will scramble for liquidity, and he says that they'll need money. He uses the word money. Well, what is money? Is money US dollars or central bank money? Sure, everyone may scramble to that for a minute to get into assets that they need if we're talking about hyperinflation. But if there's not enough circulating currency, that sounds more like a deflationary situation. And Ivan calls Richard out on this, and he's like, you're describing deflation. So I want to talk a little bit about inflation versus deflation. In inflation, there's a surplus of circulating currency. And in deflation, there's not enough going around. And the more accurate definition is an increase, inflation's an increase in the money supply, and deflation is a decrease in the money supply. Now, we've had lots of inflation. People think inflation is an increase in prices. That's price inflation. That's different. It's usually a result of almost always a result that prices go up. But as we've seen since 2008, we haven't had much price inflation, or not as much as you would expect for how much currency was created. Well, that's because velocity of money is really low. So once the velocity of money starts to pick up, that's when I think you'll see price inflation start to pick up. And Richard's right that cash, currency, not money, is a good place to be during a deflationary crash, because then you'll be able to, like Harry Dent has this position, to where you can pick up a bunch of really good assets for pennies on the dollar by just being in cash and in the sidelines. And I love how Ivan kind of was like, so you're big on cash then, and you're big on stocks. And then Richard says, no, pick the right altcoin, which is his altcoin that he created. So, which I thought was kind of funny that he just then goes on to shill Hex. But I think he was completely wrong when he was talking about hyperinflation and Weimar Germany. So the reason Weimar Germany, when they started issuing their new currency, it went prices went back down, is because people had trust in the new currency. And how did people gain trust in their new currency? Because they backed the new currency with something. It wasn't gold, but it was backed by agricultural land. It was called the Rentenmark, which is, probably pronounced that wrong, which Retten is mortgage. Means mortgage. It was backed by agricultural land. So usually when governments leave a gold standard, they almost always print too much money, resulting in hyperinflation. Then they have to go back to some sort of gold standard to gain people's trust again. So he just acts like people just started accepting this new currency that also had no limit, and that the government could create into infinity, and that's not the case. It was a currency backed by agricultural land. So I think, and it's interesting, gold does well during inflation and deflation. So I think Bitcoin could do well. If gold can do well during either inflation or deflation, then why can't Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is gold 2.0? So, yeah. And his whole premise is that why Bitcoin will move with what he calls legacy markets, what he means is the Dow and the S&P and the stock markets, is because it's a speculative asset. And when people are in there trying to get into cash and moving through Exeter's pyramid, they're going to obviously unload their more speculative assets. When you're worried about where your next meal is going to come from, you're not so interested in speculating. So that made me start thinking about greed bubbles versus fear bubbles. 2017 and 2013 also, which is when I got into Bitcoin. Those bubbles were greed bubbles. There are people who saw the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies going up, and all the momentum monkeys hopped on, and the price pumped way higher than anyone could anticipate. And that's something Richard said in the videos. The markets and all markets can do what you don't expect for a lot longer than you would expect. So, and that I completely agree with. But, oh man, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, greed bubbles. And so 2017 was definitely a greed-driven bubble. I mean, you had everyone talking about moon boys and Lambos and getting rich quick off of crypto. That's human greed right there. But when we're talking about everyone in a whole country or everyone across the world trying to preserve their purchasing power and hold on to everything that they have saved up their whole life, that's fear. So I think, to use gold and silver as an example, in silver in 2011, when gold went up to 2,000 and silver went up to $50, same thing, another greed bubble. I was down at my local coin dealer and there was lines out the door, not quite around the building, but long lines at the coin shop. That wasn't it. That wasn't the collapse. They had QE2 had just been announced, and a lot of people at the time thought that this was it. Here comes the big, here comes the hyperinflation. And it may have happened had they not manipulated all the prices. I mean, that's another thing we got to keep in mind, is that all these markets are manipulated, and in the end I think free markets will win out. But anyway, all the people in the long line at my local coin dealer were there because of their greed. They were, again, trying to just piggyback on the momentum and ride the momentum, and they weren't fearful about losing their life savings. So that's definitely not what was going on. And it's my opinion that fear bubbles can dwarf greed-driven bubbles. And the next financial crisis will, I think we're going to see gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and a lot of the other good cryptocurrencies that have a cap on how many can be created. You'll see their prices just explode. Just the fact that cryptocurrency even has a chance at transferring wealth from this paradigm to the next paradigm, or to preserve one's purchasing power, is enough to just make 20,000 look like nothing. So, and time will tell. James Rickards points out that we haven't had a big financial crisis since the creation of Bitcoin, because the last big financial crisis obviously was 2008, and Bitcoin was created in 2009 in response to what happened in 2008, in my opinion. Yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts on that interview with Ivan and Richard. It's a really good interview. They're both really smart. I like both of those guys, and respect both of them. But I think Richard's wrong. I think initially you might see Bitcoin go down as people, like in 2008, gold and silver went down at first. Silver went down a lot. Silver went down from $16 down to $8, even though you couldn't get the physical still for less than $16, at least for Silver Eagles. So the price of the physical didn't go down all that much at that time. But after that, gold and silver had a huge run. So I think you could see something similar happen with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, that they would, initially go down, but then after that they could make a huge comeback. And I think Richard's right if it is deflation, like Ivan points out. But if in a hyperinflationary situation, you're going to see Bitcoin do really well as far as price, it measured in US dollars. So another point Richard brought up is that he thought we didn't need to have a cleansing or a big collapse to act as that cleansing of the economy. And I think he's wrong. I think that eventually the malinvestment will be recognized as so, and will move to other places. So things that are unsustainable can't go on forever. So yeah, Richard's right that it might go on longer than anyone can anticipate and expect, but that's because human lifetimes are really short. All right, what's up, guys? I'm at my other shop now, so that's why the scenery changed. The sound probably changed too. Soon I'll be investing in a mic, so the sound will be a lot better here on the channel. But just wanted to get back into it. So that about wraps it up for the Richard Hart Ivan on Tech interview. Definitely check that out. And the Andreas interview is really good too. So I wanted to touch on some things he mentioned. So first thing I found interesting that he said is that he thought coronavirus would be the catalyst to kick off the next financial crisis, which is upon us. So yeah, that may or may not be the case. Wouldn't surprise me. With globalization, all the economies are so intertwined that the whole world relies on China a lot, and I could definitely see coronavirus being the snowflake to cause the avalanche, to use Jim Rickards' analogy that he uses all the time. But Andreas kind of had a similar view as Richard Hart, that a slowdown in economic activity would be bad for Bitcoin in terms of price. So what I like about Andreas is he was humble enough to admit that no one knows the answer to that, and that it could go either way. So, and I agree with that 100%. It could definitely go either way. I happen to think the financial crisis is going to be good for Bitcoin. I just watched Crypto Daily's video, and Tim Draper was talking about how Bitcoin is a safe haven and how he's out of the stock market and into Bitcoin, and that he sees it as a safe haven. So I don't think Tim Draper is a retard. So yeah, but as I said in a little earlier, that I don't think that applies to every blockchain project. I think many of them are either closely tied in working with the old financial system that is going down, so they won't survive the banking collapse, or they're just something like some of the gaming tokens and CryptoKitties and some of these type of things. There's just not going to be demand for those type of things, whereas real cryptocurrencies, at least during the hard times, after the hard times, I think those would be great. And who knows, I could be wrong. Maybe gaming will still be a thriving thing during the collapse, because people will be pretty depressed and they tend to go to things to escape. So I could be totally wrong, but I'm just anyway, I digress. So this concept, the point that both Richard Hart and Andreas make about Bitcoin going down, the price of Bitcoin going down during a financial collapse, reminds me of when bullbugs make the argument that since silver hasn't been a monetary metal for so long, and that a lot of its uses for industrial uses, that during a financial collapse, silver won't perform as well, and you should be in gold because gold is still held by central banks, and it's still viewed as money to more of a degree than silver is. And I think some people probably make that same argument for gold. But yeah, I don't think a slowdown, which I do think there will be a slowdown in economic activity, I don't think that's going to be bad for the price of gold or silver because of their monetary history. It's the monetary side that's going to cause them to go through the roof or to the moon. They are they have thousands of years of history of being stores of value. So similarly with Bitcoin, yeah, it's it's part of the tech sector, like Andreas mentions, but when the banking system is melting or seizing or whatever term you want to use, Bitcoin has now a 10-year track record of being an actual functioning currency and a store of value. So and I think that will cause it to go up despite any troubles the tech sector may have. So just wanted to make that analogy. Another thing Andreas mentioned, and I also think I heard Richard Hart mention this, maybe it wasn't in the Ivan on Tech interview, but this concept that some people gleefully wish for the collapse so it will pump their bags. And I think that's a real bad way to look at it. It's kind of hard once you own Bitcoin because you realize how fragile the system is and how flawed the current money that we use is. It's obviously, you want the price to do well, but no, I don't think wishing for financial collapse is a good thing. It reminds me of the movie Big Short, where Brad Pitt's character, him and the two younger guys are like walking out of a building, and they had been short the real estate market or whatever they were short, banking, some bank stocks or something, some financials, and it finally worked out, the way they wanted, and after going against them for so long. And so they're like dancing and celebrating. Brad Pitt's character, the two younger guys are, and Brad Pitt's character is like, hey, you guys this is like people's lives here, and has to kind of put them straight, so I definitely don't wish for a financial crisis or a deep depression, but it's definitely good to be prepared. So another thing Andreas touched on was that he saw mass adoption coming from the third world more so than here in the first world. And I see it coming from both, personally. If once people realize that Bitcoin is a superior money, people will use it. I think but Andreas is probably right that banking the unbanked is really where a lot of the mass adoption is going to come from. But I wouldn't discount the first world either, because why wouldn't people use a superior money if they're allowed to? So I think the reason people haven't used gold and silver for so long was because of legal tender laws and they pretty much weren't allowed to. So let's see. Another thing he touched on is that government's ability to create currency isn't something they're going to just give up without a fight. He said they'll fight tooth and nail to defend that power. And I agree, except that one minor detail is that most of the governments don't create their own currency. They delegate that responsibility to a private central bank. The Federal Reserve is a private central bank. And it reminds me of a quote by, I can't remember who it was exactly. I think it was a Rothschild, some banker a long time ago. It is said that a banker once said, "I care not who makes the laws, as long as," oh man, I'm butchering it. It's "I care not who makes the law." Oh man, now I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't want to butcher this quote. It's by Nathan Mayer Rothschild, and it goes, "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes the laws." And what Bitcoin did is told the bankers, we care not who makes the money, because now we have something better. Overall, I think Andreas is right that open finance, as he calls it, or decentralized finance is another term I'm hearing a lot. things will, I think, literally save the world. Like the impact, like almost every problem you could think of in the world, almost all of it comes back to fiat money. In my opinion, at least. So, lastly, I just wanted to end on a quote from Andreas that I thought was really good. And that is, in the internet of money, you cannot censor financial transactions, and you cannot take a whole population hostage to a currency experiment. And that will inevitably shift the power from nation states and very large multinational corporations to the individual. And I think that's what we're in the process of doing, and that includes everyone watching this video. So buy some, I don't give financial advice. I buy silver and I buy cryptocurrency to be part of, not only to be prepared, but to be part of that transfer and that revolution. And I just think it's a beautiful time to be alive. So excited to see what 2020 holds, and thank you all for joining me. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks a lot.